you call me, 'cause I can't go. Someone's wrong on the internet, don't you know?
With that introduction, we now have Susan Gerbic telling stories with Wikipedia. Susan, the floor is yours.
Oh, really?
If we're renting it from you.
Okay, I gotta have to take it back.
Temporarily.
I'm so honored that your dad showed up to hear me talk. That's so cool. Hi.
He didn't show up for mine, just so you know, but that's fine. That's cool.
And now for something different, all right? Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out to our inaugural New Mexican for Science and Reason Skeptic Camp. Hopefully, we will be able to do a lot more of these. So what we're going to do is I'm going to explain to you a little bit about the GSOW project. You've probably heard a little bit about it because we are so ingrained in the rest of the community. It's hard to imagine Wikipedia articles that we have not written that are probably associated with many people here or people that you know of. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell some stories using Wikipedia. So I'm going to warn you ahead of time that there's going to be text on here. I don't want the lights lowered because it'll make it so much easier for you to read what's on there. And I don't want you to read the stuff that's on here. It's going to be text heavy. They're just examples of Wikipedia articles that I have screenshot for me to be able to facilitate the conversation I'm going to have with you about telling stories. So just ignore the full text and just kind of go with it. Just kind of blend in with the conversation I'm having. So this is my organization, AboutTimeProject.org. It is a nonprofit, thankfully, because of the James Randi Educational Foundation, who funded me in the beginning. And it allows me to be able to go and do talks and other things of that sort. Plus, I am going to warn you, I am going to try to recruit you. You have to be on Facebook. You have to be able to handle training, constructive criticism. It takes months to become one of my GSOW editors, but it is extremely powerful. As you saw from Adrian's talk yesterday on ghost photography, Winchester Mystery House, and all the other amazing things she's done. You already have, how many views was it you said on Wikipedia? So almost 2 million people have viewed her work, and that is powerful work. And that's being repeated to people in journalism and all kinds of places. This is all being fed into the giant atmosphere. We take the work by people like Ben Radford and Brian Dunning and others, and we're able to put it in a place where more people will see it. Okay, if you don't join the GSOW project, I totally understand. It is a commitment. It is something for some people who it's just not something for them to do. But I'd like you to become advocates for us. Help us get more in front of more people, to be able to do more talks, to be able to do more of this kind of advocacy, and so more understanding of Wikipedia. I am going to go through a few slides. I did write this presentation, sort of part of it, back in when I was touring in Australia in December, and I had you guys in mind, so I kind of pressured Dave to do this Skeptic Camp because I knew partly I really wanted to do this talk here. And you'll see why in a minute. All right, so not only am I going to be telling stories with Wikipedia, everything that you see on these slides that I'm going to tell you is from the Wikipedia pages that we wrote that I will be showing you. And it's not gossip, and it's just part of the story. If you'd like to take screenshots with your phone or write down the people's names of the Wikipedia articles I'm going to show you, then you can go back and read it in depth. Because I'm hoping to be able to get you guys interested in some things. So I'm not just telling stories with Wikipedia, I'm telling our stories. Because the people I'm going to tell you about are from our community, all right? So, everybody probably here knows what this is. What is it? Shout it out.
Comet.
A comet. Do we know which comet? What was that? It's Hale-Bopp, yes. Anybody see Hale-Bopp? Okay, right, so we have some more information about Hale-Bopp. I'm not going to talk about Hale-Bopp. Hale-Bopp is a well-written Wikipedia page. There's a lot of Wikipedia pages, especially in astronomy. There's a lot of science nerds that are very interested in astronomy, and they make sure the astronomy pages are well-written. What is missing, though, is they're missing the Wikipedia articles for the people of science. We're missing a lot of that. And one of the things GSOW does, Guerrilla Skeptics on Wikipedia, is we make sure we're writing the Wikipedia articles for the people in our community for respect, for the media to be able to get more information about them, for lots of reasons. We want the media to contact these people and say, this is the person I should be talking to, not that discredited person over there that is, like RFK Jr. or whatever. We want them to go to the people in our community who are going to give good information. So this is a story about Alan Hell, the astronomer, not the skipper from Gilligan's Island. This is a different person. And so this is Alan Hell, and I'm going to be talking about Thomas Bopp. A lot of people, I've done this presentation, I'm on tour. This is my last week. I've been on tour for 2 weeks. This is the 4th or 5th presentation I've done in the last 2 weeks on this topic, and a large percentage of our audiences don't know who Hale-Bopp are. They have no idea why it's called Hale-Bopp, and why it's Hale and Bopp, not Bopp and Hale, and all that. They didn't know it was people. A lot of people didn't know. It's very interesting how little they knew. So I'm going to talk a little bit about these people. This is a photo I begged from Dave Thomas, here sitting here. We cannot take a photo off of the internet and use it on Wikimedia. Wikimedia is the hub of Wikipedia, the parent organization, where all audio and visual and stuff is uploaded. We cannot take a photograph or a video or audio off of there because of copyright rules, and Wikipedia takes it very seriously. So we have to get our photos and our images from people who knew the person or happened to take a picture, so the photographer has to upload it. And this photo is the only photo we have of Alan Hale, and Dave Thomas took it here. And he uploaded it for me years ago, and I really appreciate it. So Alan Hale is a professional astronomer. He was born in Japan. He was in the his father was in the Air Force. He transferred to New Mexico, here where we are, when he was a child. He credits his love of science with the clear skies of New Mexico. He really followed the U.S. Space Force. He loved Star Trek, all right? Live long and prosper, everybody. Library books, loved dinosaurs, drove his parents nuts with dinosaurs. He joined the Navy. He got a degree in physics. He worked for JPL. JPL is the Jet Propulsion Laboratories. He went back to school and he got his PhD in astronomy. That's who Alan Hale is. He started an organization that he wanted to break down barriers. He thought science was a way of educating people and having common conversations with them without them having, he thought science was a good way of communicating with people who also love science. And he brought students out to see eclipses and meteor showers and all that kind of stuff. He thought that children should be really seeing that kind of thing. And a lot of places, big cities, kids don't have the sky that they can look outside and see. So Alan Hale once said, "There's an entire generation that has come of age never having seen the dark sky." All right, so Thomas Bopp. All right, this is a photographer. This is the only photo we have of Thomas Bopp. I don't know who submitted it, if somebody I don't know. He's born in Denver, moved to Ohio as a child, and his father taught him to love astronomy. His father taught him about a meteor shower. There was a meteor shower. They sat on the back steps in Ohio. It's a town that had nice open skies, and what he was able to do was explain astronomy to him. And so Thomas Bopp had a love of astronomy because of his father. He joined the Air Force. He moved to Arizona, which is nearby. He married, became a father, and he went and started taking astronomy classes. Now, he worked in construction. I don't know how you would say it. It's like the people who analyze how many boards you need, how much concrete you need, like an estimator for construction companies. So he is not a professional astronomer. All right? So he joined a lot of astronomy clubs in Arizona. Thomas Bopp and Alan Hale did not know each other. So what happens is they're out on July 22nd, 1995. They're out looking at the night sky in 2 different states, Arizona and New Mexico. And so they're out looking. Now, Alan Hale is looking at he's looking for something to happen in the sky But while he's waiting for whatever it was he was looking at, he's waiting for time to pass. He's just looking through his telescope and he sees something fuzzy in the sky. And he doesn't quite know. He's seen comets before, so he knows what a comet looks like when you're looking through a telescope. But so he's looking at it and he's like, wait a minute, it's not on any star charts. No star, or I should say, he's looking through the little thing like this and then looking, no star charts, he's looking on the paper. And he's looking through the telescope that's looking up there, the little eyepiece. And there's nothing on there, so he tracks it for hours. And what they do is, the organization, there's an organization responsible for tracking all this stuff and putting them on star charts. It's called the Central Bureau for Astronomical Telegrams. So he sends them an email. Hey, I've tracked this for hours, it's not on the star charts, I think it's a comet that nobody's seen before. He doesn't know if he's first, he doesn't know if he's the 1,000th person who's noticed it, he doesn't know. So that was Alan Hale and his experiment with the comet. Okay, so what happens is, once they discover the comet, right, they discover that there is a comet in the sky and the media descends on Thomas Bopp and Alan Hale. Remember the days when we had science journalists that were actually devoted to science journalism, educated in science, and they had a department at the newspapers and they would like research stuff and they do stuff? That doesn't really exist very much anymore. Now you have reporters, budgets have been cut, they've gotten rid of people who are pure science journalists, and they're having to rely more and more on Wikipedia and other places. I kid you not, there's sometimes just one person doing the science journalism, and they also might be the entertainment person, and they also have to handle their own social media. Budgets have been cut, it's really sad. So, USA Today interviewed Alan Hale and asked him about the comet and what was going on. And he said, oh my gosh, 45 minutes of information about the comet and what was going on and what the comet meant and what did all this. And he said this in jest, we would meet the aliens when they land at Roswell and confront them for following his comet. That's what he said. Here's what only thing they reported after all of the information he gave him. Hale said he would go to Roswell to meet the spacecraft when it lands. So that's what the USA Today reported. And you know, there was a rumor at the time of a UFO falling behind Hale Bopp. Do you guys remember this? It was just a little, whatever, how silly, what a National Enquirer kind of thing. But there was a group that did believe this was real. Heaven's Gate. Yeah, bringing back memories, huh? So many people died. They killed themselves because they believed they were going to be beamed up to this UFO that was following Hale Bopp comet. It was awful. You can read about it on Wikipedia. We didn't write that article. It was also well written. So that was one of the things that happened. So when they interviewed Thomas Bopp later, not Thomas Bopp, Alan Hale, I'm getting my peoples mixed up. Okay, another victory for ignorance and superstition. So now Thomas Bopp had a little bit different experience with the discovery of Hale Bopp. And what happened to him is him and his father did a lot of lectures and talks, and he became very famous out in the media trying to educate people about science and so on. It was very interesting. He had an interesting experience with it. He had gone and he was in Arizona with his friends. It wasn't even his telescope. He's looking through the telescope and he looks up, he says, what's that fuzzy thing? He'd never seen a comet in the wild before. So his friends are looking at the star maps, going, not there. Star maps, not there. What the heck is it? They follow it for a few hours. And he tries to use his cell phone. It's 1995, no reception. Goes into town, goes to a phone booth, remember those? Realizes he doesn't have a phone number to call. And, he's so excited. And then so he goes home, and what Thomas Bopp does is he sends a telegram via Western Union, because the name of the organization, remember, is a historical organization, and it's called Central Bureau for Astronomical Telegrams. And they kept it in the title just to be, because it showed the history of it. So he actually sent a telegram. So Hale has already sent several emails. Bopp is sending a telegram, and that's why it's named Hale Bopp. So they had, it's not because one's a professional astronomer and one's not. It's because one received the email over telegram. So always send an email or a phone call if you can. So one of the things, this is also on the Wikipedia article, So National Geographic interviewed Thomas Bopp in 1997, and he said, "This has been the best week of my life and the worst." And we included this story in the Wikipedia article because I think it's important for people to understand that the people that we all revere as being heroes of our community, hopefully, actually are real people with problems in their lives, with misunderstandings, or they have their own insecurities. They're humans, right? So we wanted to include this kind of thing in the articles. Well, National Geographic is a legitimate source. And what happened in his case, and I'm sure you don't know this, but what happened was Thomas Bopp's brother and sister-in-law went out to photograph Hale Bopp when it was bright in the sky. And they drove out into a dark area of Arizona and photographed it. And as they came in, car crashed and both died. So Thomas Bopp, in the week that of his fame is at the highest, his brother and sister-in-law die after photographing the comet that he's named for. Very sad. So, and that's not the last of the stories that I'm going to tell you today. Right. Okay, so Alan Hale, this is the before and after. I'm just going to show you these briefly for time reasons. You can go back and look at these, but on this side, my right, is the before. This is the entire Wikipedia page for Alan Hale. You can see there's 8 citations, and this is the current page after we have rewritten this page. My team has to go through a 4-month training. It's not hard, but there are steps. And I do all the training. I love training, and that's my jam. I love it. But one of the things people have to do when they are part of my program to finish training is they have to rewrite a stub. So this is called a stub. In other words, it's not well written. It's tiny. And this is what it looks like there. And I can't even show you the whole page because you can see just in comparison how many citations are on there now. This is Thomas Bopp. Ignore that orange thing up there that said, basically the orange tab up there is saying this page is crap. And he's got 4 citations, and then afterwards it's at 29 citations, at least when I made the screen grab. Okay. I think that means it's just a way of saying that the article's locked, I think. Might be behind a paywall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot to some more stories, but I'm going to do these fairly quick. And these are people that you probably have not heard of, but I'd like you to know who they are. Again, you might want to jot down the names of these people as I go through so that you can go back and read their Wikipedia articles, I hope. So we're going to start off with Archie Cochrane. Anybody's heard of Archie Cochrane here? Very important man who's had a lot of impact in your lives. You have no idea. So he's a Scottish doctor from a wealthy family, though his father was killed in World War I, so that's how long ago he was around. When he was about 8, his brother died of tuberculosis. So illnesses really were, paramount in his life. His father had died. He had to go rely on scholarships to go to school. His sister and him suffered from, I have this written down, so I'm looking at it, PORPHYRIA, a nervous system that wasn't treatable in the UK at the time. That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds, Sonia, I think you got it right. Porphyria. So he couldn't be treated in Scotland or the UK, so he moved to Germany in 1931. So you can remember what was happening in Germany in 1931, right? So he's moved there, and he ends up joining the British Army in World War II. He's captured. He serves in a World War II prisoner of war camp where he is forced to be the doctor because he has his degree at that point. What he discovers in the world over time is that much of medicine has no evidence to justify its use. So what they were doing is the NHS, that's the National Health Society, I think, in the UK, failed to carry out trials or ignored the results that did not back up their preconceived ideas. So what this man did is he promoted the scientific method. He's the first person to do a randomized trial of aspirin in heart disease. And we know him now as the father of evidence-based medicine. Would you believe it was in the 40s before we actually took it seriously that the medicine that we're using should have some controlled trials to prove that it's working. But this is something we didn't even know about, but this is the man who's responsible for that. This one here, okay, this is Alton Lemon. Alton Lemon, nobody know who he is, right? Okay. This is a civil rights activist, social worker. He was in the U.S. Army. So this man was a member of the Housing and Department of Energy. He was in the NAACP. He was the person who coined the term ethical humanism. He was a plaintiff in the Supreme Court case Lemon versus Kurtzman. In 1971, what they were doing is they were using our tax dollars to fund parochial schools. So this is the man who kind of caused the church and state separation. He was the lead plaintiff on it. So one of the problems with this is that it's been 30 years or more, and now we're seeing that the administration that hopes to get back into power is there are people waiting in the wings that are just ready to start back with prayers in schools, creationism in schools. It's like right there. It's very close to happening again. So Alton Lemon, this is part of his Wikipedia page now. I'm not going to show you the whole thing. You guys can check it out whenever you go look to it. Jeannie Scott, I love Jeannie Scott. Everybody should make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel for Center for Inquiry, and please try to make it to SciCon this October. It is the last SciCon in Vegas for 2 years at least. So please try to make it if you can. At the conference, Jeannie Scott talked about, now Jeannie Scott is a fellow, like several of the people here are, and she was also involved in some Supreme Court cases that division of church and state, creationism school. She's an anthropologist, or I think she's an anthropologist by trade. So she had a talk that was so depressing at SciCon. I would suggest that you look at it. It's called Here Come the Creationists Again. It's very powerful and talks about how Lemon is about to be overturned, right? Another person that's instrumental for the people here in this world, in this community, Ken Frazier, was a dear friend. He was a dear friend to many of you guys here. I feel his loss. It's incredible. So we wrote his Wikipedia article years ago, one of the kindest men I've ever met. But what I really want to talk about, here's his Wikipedia page. And it was awful. Anyway, so I want to really talk about his daughter, and who talked about her yesterday? That's right. So I didn't know Michelle, but let me tell you a tiny bit about her. So Michelle was a person who loved the water. She dropped out of school. She took on kayaking, and you guys are all reading the slides. I don't know why you're reading the slides. We should blur them so you guys can't read the slides, but whatever. You can look at this on Wikipedia, you guys. So she really wanted to teach people to kayak. She loved being on the water. So what she did is, being a woman, a youngish woman, I guess without a history of having medical conditions and not having health insurance, she skipped a lot of the tests that women should be getting done. And she started experiencing a lot of pain, and it turns out that she ended up having a stage 4 diagnosis of cancer, cervical cancer. And so what she did, because she's an amazing human being, she went and decided, and she's given 4 to 6 months to live, she decided she was going to take on stand-up paddleboarding. Is that what it's called? Stand-up paddleboarding. And so she goes with her mom and a documentarian person out to India, and she's on her little paddle boat, and she's going down the water, and 10 hours or more a day, and the people, it's the shallowish areas, and the people would come out from the areas and come and talk to her, and she would talk to them about cancer screening and that kind of thing. So she ends up dying. Very sadly, she dies in 2009, I think, or 2010. And the documentary comes out. And then a little bit later, after she's died, they go back to India with a different documentarian, and they film showing the film to these little villages, and they took the women in buses and they took them to get screened for cancers and stuff. And these are in villages that would have nobody would have given them any medical, modern medical attention. And at least one woman, they discovered she had early stage cervical cancer, and they caught it in time, and she's fine. But so. Very inspiring woman. I'd like you guys to know more about her. That is Michelle Baldwin. Okay, moving on. We have Cresswell Eastman. This is another person I'm sure you've never heard of, but he's had an impact in your lives, whether you know it or not, or at least in the world of medicine. He is a professor of medicine at Sydney University. My team wrote this Wikipedia page from scratch. He's an amazing human being. He publicized iodine deficiency. So most people only need about a tablespoon, I think, of iodine in your lifetime to keep you healthy. But when you're a woman who's pregnant or lactating, you need to have iodine in your diet. Otherwise, the baby will be born with the brain won't necessarily, it'll have problems with the brain, learning disabilities, ability to walk, and things like that. And a lot of these countries, they don't have really great health care, and they didn't know about iodine deficiency. So this man went and toured all over places in Malaysia and China and all over the place, bringing the people in medicine there. You have to make sure that the women, because women's health is ignored, we know that. And to give them iodine in their diet. It's just a little bit, but make sure it's in there. So what this man is known as is the man who saved 1 million brains, because he was able to educate so many people, and that's why we have, he popularized that. Okay, I'm almost done with these, so let me show you a couple more. Stanley Plotkin. Anybody know who Paul Offit is? Pillar of our community, vaccine awareness. So this friend of Fauci and absolutely just vilified in the last the COVID thing that we all went through. Stanley Plotkin was a great friend of Paul Offit, and Paul Offit asked me if we would ever take on Stanley Plotkin's Wikipedia page because it was a stub and it was crap. So I want to tell you just a moment about Stanley Plotkin. Anybody here have German measles or been affected by German measles, rubella, rabies, robovirus? Okay. Part of the reason why you guys aren't affected by it is because of the vaccines that this man, Stanley Plotkin, was instrumental in having in our lives. It was a huge mess. Rubella and German measles and rubella was a horrible condition, especially to women who were in the second trimester of their pregnancy. All that stuff was just horrible in our society. And now we're like, we can get it treated. Okay, well, it wasn't like that before. And I'm going to tell you a moment about Stanley Plotkin. He was a man who wanted to join the Air Force, and he wanted to fly. He wanted to fly planes. And that's awesome. But thankfully, he went into virology. Later in life, I think at the age of 77, he went back and got his pilot's license, because you can, he's like, shit, I'm going to go get my pilot's license. This man was just a wonderful human being. He still is. He's around. He's, I think, 89 now. And when he was, when we wrote the Wikipedia article, I reached out to Paul Offit. I guess he's 91 now. I reached out to Paul Offit to tell him what we did, and Paul Offit said, oh my gosh. I told Stanley Plotkin, and Stanley Plotkin wrote back to me personally and said, I'm just amazed that somebody would do this. Why would somebody write my Wikipedia article? I didn't realize I had so many achievements in my life. He just didn't quite get it, and it was so sweet. Just a sweet guy. Okay. That's his page before, and it's already been redone. I'm not going to show you that. Okay. Last, Daniel Cohen, children's writer. You guys probably have never heard of this man. No? All right. So Brian Dunning had done an art, one of the things this guy over here, whatever his name is, Dunning. So one of the things he had asked on Facebook is he said that they tell, Dunning, you can probably quote it better than I can, telling stories, the stories that brought us to science, this idea of bringing stories, the things we looked at when we were kids. You remember those scholastic books, on Bigfoot and cryptozoology and ghost stories. And we liked that as we were kids. And then we got older, we kind of discovered we still love science, but we wanted to investigate mysteries and so on. Well, this man has written a lot of those books, hundreds of books, on just about everything you can imagine. So what he did is he would have a skeptical bent. So he would say, I'm telling a ghost story. Here's a whole bunch of ghost stories for kids. Remember, these are just stories. Aren't they fun to tell your friends? They're just stories. In other words, they're fake. So he kept a very skeptical slant in the article, in the books he wrote, but they were all stories that were well written for children. Okay, he's not a scientist. His wife was, I believe, worked for CNN. So here's why I wanted to tell you about him again. And this is on the Wikipedia article. Cohen had a daughter. Her name is Theodora. At the age of 22, she was in Europe, and she didn't make it home. She ended up dying over the skies of Lockerbie, Scotland. Anybody remember that? So the plane was shot down, everybody on board was killed, and many people on the ground were killed. And I think it was Libya, I think it was. So because Daniel Cohen was so media literate, he kind of became the face of the people who were trying to deal with the families who were trying to deal with the Libyan government and lawsuits and the flight and the airline and all these kinds of stuff. So Daniel Cohen had to end up doing this horrible task of advocating for these other families. And his wife said, this wasn't the worst day of my life, it was the last day of my life, when my daughter fell from the sky and was murdered. So Daniel Cohen, one of the things I did is I asked on Facebook if other people had, here's his article. These two things right there are just saying this is crap. So we rewrote that. So I asked on Facebook if other people had stories of books and things that they had read as children, and people responded. And a lot of the books that they responded with were Daniel Cohen's books that they had remembered and they appreciated and they loved these books that had brought him to more of a love of science. Okay. So I'm going to talk about just briefly numbers because I know there's some engineers here and I know you guys like stats. So it's no good doing activism, and I consider the GSOW project activism because we've really affected a lot of people's lives in a lot of ways. We have to kind of keep it on the low key. We've been coming under a lot of attack, my editors, over the last few years for people not liking what we're putting on Wikipedia, or we're removing things on Wikipedia. We're just following the rules. Now, I'm not worried about being sued. You can't sue a Wikipedia editor, but I don't want my editors harassed. I am the only person on the team that edits using their last name. So I'm S. Gerbic. Everything that's done on Wikipedia is public. I can't really talk too much about some of the things we do because of that. But I can keep track of, what good is activism if you have no way of measuring it? So this is how I measure it. One of my friends, Kyle Polish, who's the data skeptic, he has a podcast, he wrote me a program called Stat Badger. And it's really funny because today I got a gift here from Mary over here, and she brought me earrings, and it's a little stat badger. It's a little badger, and I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. I'm going to be mentioning badgers. And she brought me a little earring with this. Well, she brought me two, but I only wear one at a time. But so you can check out my little badger she brought me. I thought that was very fitting. I think she's psychic because, why else would you have done that, right? So we can look at, we know how many pages we've created. Okay, we know that. We have to have a way of measuring it. So what we do is we measure it by how many times the Wikipedia article has been viewed. That's all we can do. We can't see if it's the same person going over and over. We can't tell if they're reading from beginning to end. We can only tell how many times it's been accessed. That's the only way we can measure our activism. And, it's what it is. So I can't keep track of every edit we've made because sometimes we make edits that are 2 sentences long, or we remove 2 sentences. But what we're doing is we have just finished writing our 2,216th Wikipedia article. 45% of all the work we do is in languages outside of English because pseudoscience does not end at our border. So those 2,216 Wikipedia articles, the reason why the numbers are on the screen, because I can check it daily, I just checked it this morning, have been viewed 100 and, yes, like magic. I'm glad I've got a sound effect. That's beautiful. Thank you. Just on cue. 168,556,428 times. So we are having an input. 168 million people have viewed the work that my project has done. We're completely volunteers. And I have handled all the training, and I am just like suffering from imposter syndrome because by trade I'm a baby photographer. So it's just amazing to me that anybody would have anything to do with what we're doing. So science communication, that's really what we're doing, using Wikipedia to communicate science. We know students are using Wikipedia, so we feel like we got to make sure that students are getting the absolute best information they possibly can, because we know that they are going to plagiarize our work. So let's make sure that what they're plagiarizing is the best content possible. We know journalists are plagiarizing work. We all know all of that. So Normally I would stop right here, but I'm going to indulge. I am asking for an indulgement from you. I'm still kind of on time. We got started a little late, but that's okay. I'll skip lunch today. No, I'm kidding. I want to show you a video. And this is important because I have shown it twice now. It is not anywhere on the internet. Some of you may know I have a project that is Wikipedia. It's Wikipedia, but it's psychic related. I'm very interested in psychic mediums. And not the psychic mediums that you see on TV. I'm really interested in the down and dirty, what's happening in real life. And I don't have a lot of time to explain this to you, but I'd be happy to explain it to you afterwards. This is my YouTube channel. It's called Psychics Explained. And what we're doing on this channel is I break down readings in extreme detail. I attend readings, and I know for a fact now that what we are used to in the skeptic community and the world around us is not really what's going on. What's really going on is much more dangerous and manipulative than you realize. And I think I'm just getting into the weeds of this. It's really awful. So I'm going to show you a sting that I had done for a future event. I call it Operation Dill Pickle. In case you have trouble remembering my website, Psychics Explained, maybe you can remember that. It might be easier for you to remember. My YouTube channel, it's the same website. It's just, okay, isn't that clever? Thank you, Rob Palmer, for teaching me how to do that. So I'm going to show you this video. I'm going to give you just a very brief info. It's 7 minutes long, and I want to hear your response, okay? So this is probably something you've never experienced before. It is uncut, and I want to show it in its completeness because I think it's important. Let me pull it up. So let me tell you this really quick. So this is a 10-person reading. I have attended along with Adrian was there watching, and another person. I got a reading from the psychic. Of course, I can't get the stupid thing. I got a reading from the psychic. Here it goes. And I'm not going to show you any of that. I'm only going to show you this little clip that I cut, and I showed it in St. Louis to Stephen Hupp and to the St. Louis Skeptics, and you guys will only be the third person that's watched this. This is a Zoom reading, so I'm able to watch this woman, the psychic, interact with this woman. Her name is Trudy. It's, like I said, I haven't blurred this or anything, so Adrian's going to cut this out in the main video, or we're going to blur it before we can allow anybody to see this. So this is like hour one of 2 hours of readings this woman's done. And they're interacting over Zoom. I'm watching all this with like 5 people that are watching it to understand what's going on. Okay, is everybody ready? Okay, lights up again, Adrian, please. So I have not thousands, but I have tons of videos that I have to watch over and over and over like this. And I think that as a society, we are not prepared for this. We think that what we see on these Tyler Henrys and Teresa Caputos and John Edwards, that's what we think is going on. But that's not what's going on. Those are heavily edited TV shows made for TV audiences. This is the kind of stuff that's really happening. And thousands of these things are happening all the time. This is a hugely manipulative, almost 100% female victims. They're being taken advantage of for their loneliness and their grief and their desperation for making friendships and all that thing. And I don't know how to really explain this really well, except maybe to show you this thing that was, I could have cut this into little bits and showed you bits. I think it's important to see it from beginning to end, to see exactly the emotion of this and how the conversations happen and how this is hot and cold reading. I don't want to explain it right now, but just for time. But if we could get like a couple responses. Adrian has a little, do you have it, Adrian? A little thing just for the video. If a couple people have what you thought of this, I'd like to do that. But I'd also, after this, you guys can talk to me about psychics for mediumship, because this is like my jam, really, like I say. Celestia has a question, wants to make a statement first, but just a couple.
As far as responses to the video?
Yeah, or what's going on.
Number one, her cousin and his wife are definitely moving to get away from her.
Poor lady. Poor lady. Poor Trudy. My Trudy.
Number two, you could see the psychic's eyes move to the bottom left every time she saw something from, oh, Frank is telling me, as I read my cell phone in the right-hand corner, blah, blah, blah. She was reading. You could tell from her eyes she was reading everything that she intuited.
Okay. Anybody else have a comment or question or whatever you want to say? In the back.
What gets me is she sleeps better than I do at night. Yeah.
Oh, just awful. Up here in the front. Wait, she's bringing your microphone.
The clients seem to do most of the talking, and the psychic was just putting out general questions. Are you interested in painting?
I thought it's because of the painting behind her. She's associating the painting and painting.
Right. So it was just a total makeup. The client was just willing to just dive right into any conversation that was available.
Sonia has one too.
Yeah, I was also amazed by that dialogue about the painting. I mean, because the psychic asked if she was going to be doing any painting. She said no.
Yeah.
And then she was drawn out a little bit more, but that was the end of it.
You're welcome. It's awful that this person, they lost someone in their life, and this lady is really predatory about that. Yeah, you're going to be feeling grief and lonely and like you need friends and like something is missing, because something is missing. Someone died, and for them to exploit that, that's just wrong. And I'll tell you, from losing my parents recently, like, there's people, they see that you post it and they're there willing to like give you free advice from the stars.
Free at the beginning.
They got a message from you from beyond. They had to just ignore it because you know that it's crap.
But a lot of these people are in such grief.
But yeah.
It's not that they want to hear from their loved one, they need to hear from their loved one.
Yeah, and that's where it's like so predatory, because they're taking 100% advantage of someone who needs to learn how to grieve and let go. And yeah, make friends, but not just because this lady is suggesting this.
Okay, so I'll just conclude with if you want to find more of these kinds of videos, they are difficult to watch. And I break them down in major detail, but I think our community needs to watch this kind of stuff, because I think we have the wrong impression about what's going on with the harm. Most people just throw it off like, it's just somebody yelling the ABCs at these people. But it's people having relationships with the client. That woman has been going to this woman, the psychic, for a long time. You saw her say, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. You know, she might be seeing her every day. I see some people have 4 or 5 hours with the psychic on Facebook or TikTok several times a week. And they become so absorbed into the lives of the mediumship. The other thing I've really starting to understand is a lot of the mediums are also victims. And I know that sounds really awful, because intuitively, not the people at the high level, those people know damn well what they're doing. But a lot of these mediums are being preyed on as well. And that's a whole different subject. And I've been writing about it for Skeptical Inquirer for some time. If you want to know more about my thoughts, you can look at my channel. But that's my conclusion. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for your attention.
Randy, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. Someone's wrong on the internet, don't you know?